Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to Austria and the Red Bull Ring as we head into the second half of the International GTOpen season for 2016. It's been a long time since we were at Silverstone and we've now got this 6-race, 3-event run-in through to the end of the year, the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia. But first of all, we've got to look forward to a double header of races here at the Red Bull Ring. Well, it's a very warm welcome from myself, Ben Evans, to an absolutely beautiful day here just outside Spielberg in Austria, where the sun has been beating down since first thing this morning, and we were treated to an electrifying qualifying session for this afternoon's International GTOpen race. One driver though who had a frustrating qualifying session was Alex West in the Garage 59 McLaren. There he is, who was unable to get in much running until the very end of the session. Sally Yuluk and Ewan Hankey in the TF Sport Aston Martin, will they come to the Red Bull Ring this weekend, hot on the heels of a fantastic victory at Silverstone. Here is the championship leading Orange 1 Team Lazarus Lamborghini of Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crestani, and it is Thomas Biaggi, the former World GT champion, who will start the race, albeit from 7th place, because qualifying was unbelievably close earlier on, and it sets us up very nicely for what promises to be an excellent 70 minutes of racing. This is the pole-sitting car, however, of Andrea Caldarelli in the SF Racing Ferrari 488. Caldarelli, who we saw in Paul Ricard alongside Vitantonio Liuzzi in the Lamborghini Huracan in the Ferrari this weekend, and of course absolutely on the pace. So we will see how Fabrizio Andrea Caldarelli and Songyang Fu progress in the Ferrari. Second place on the grid has gone the way of Peter Schotthorst and Miguel Ramos in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. The BMW is leaving it until very late in the qualifying session to go out and set their times, and we had a duel between the Ferrari and the BMWs through the final 5 minutes of qualifying. In the end, Caldarelli taking that pole position by 88 thousandths of a second from Peter Schotthorst, and third going to Gustavo Jackermann in the second Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs by a margin of just a 10th of a second off pole for Jackermann, 24 thousandths of a second adrift of Peter Schotthorst. So very, very close as the Ferrari rolls into position. Caldarelli comes to a stop. The Austrian fans have got the flares ready and going in the patriotic colours. I think others just enjoying the chance to bathe in the September sunshine as the grid of supercars is assembled. They get the 5-minute board, so there is the SF Racing car of Caldarelli and Songyang Fu. That is Andrea Caldarelli, who will just take on a little bit of fluid before the race gets underway. Then alongside him, the first of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs. That's Peter Schotthorst, who came into the team to partner Miguel Ramos at Silverstone immediately right on the pace, the Dutch driver, and he will be doing everything he can to see if he can catapult Miguel Ramos to successive championships. In second of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs, it is Gustavo Jackermann. Jackermann in good spirits today, feels the car's working very well. Fourth on the grid for Duncan Tappy in the first of the Garage 59 McLarens that he shares with Michael Benham. Tappy and Benham third place in race 2 at Silverstone, after Mike Benham was pipped by thousandths of a second by Gustavo Jackermann at the line. Duncan Tappy and Mike Benham confident of their chances this weekend. Think the McLaren is a really good whole race package. Same goes for the car in 5th place, the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, started today by Sean Balfe, but a new co-driver for Balfe this weekend in the form of Adam Carroll, who needs almost no introduction. And Carroll, I think, will fly in that kart later on. Sally Uluk and Ewan Hankey then in the TF Sport Aston Martin, and it is Sally Uluk who will be starting before handing over to Hankey. Then Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crestani, the championship leaders in the Orange One Team Lazarus Lamborghini. And again, it's a car that has just had a very, very consistent pace throughout each race this year. Busnelli and Babini are the drivers in the Ebby Motors Lamborghini, and it is going to be Fabio Babini who starts before handing over to Emanuele Busnelli. It's great to see them back on the grid, returning for the first time since Paul Ricard. Then Miguel Sardina and Manuel da Costa in the Sports and New Mercedes. There's Miguel Sardina who starts in the first of the two Mercedes that we've got on the grid, because alongside them is the Lechner Racing Mercedes of Mario Placuta and Thomas Jaeger, and it's Mario Placuta who takes to the start before handing over to the experienced and very rapid Thomas Jaeger. Felipe Barrieroth and Francisco Guedes, the all-Portuguese pairing in the V8 Racing Renault, and a big thumbs up from Felipe Barrieroth, likely to be one of the prime challengers in the GTOpen class. And then Alex West starts the Garage 59 McLaren, but he has got a new co-driver this weekend in the form of reigning champion Alvaro Parent. And Parent, we know, will be able to work miracles with that car later on. Let's have a look at the grid in full then, with the Ferrari and the BMW on the front row of the grid. Then we've got Gustavo Yakin and Duncan Tapia, very competitive second row. Onto row 3, Sean Balfe and Sally Uluk. And then the all Lamborghini fourth row of Thomas Biaggi and Fabio Babini. All Mercedes row 5, Miguel Sardina and Mario Placuta. And then on to the sixth row, Felipe Barrieroth and Alex West. A lot of strength in depth in this field. And talking to the drivers in the paddock last night, very, very hard for them to pick a winner. They think any one of 8 cars could be in contention for the flag today. So the grid being cleared as we are seconds away from this 70-minute race for the International GTOpen, going racing for the 9th time this season. And there is Teo Martin, principal of the BMW Teo Martin Motorsport team. 70-minute race. They have, of course, got the mandatory pit stop. That comes between 28 and 42 minutes in the race, and that's where the element of strategy starts to come into play, particularly here at the Red Bull Ring, where it is such a short lap, relatively speaking, and therefore you can really get some benefit from it. Miguel Ramos forcing a smile, I think, in the garage as he watches his car in the hands of Peter Schotthorst head off on the formation lap in pursuit of Andrea Caldarelli. It is, of course, a rolling start, and all of the drivers equipped with the Michelin Control compound tyre. If you have just joined us for the International GTOpen in the Euro Formula Open race that took place about an hour ago, we had a big incident coming through turn 1 here, and that was caused by a driver just getting a little bit wide on the marbles at turn 1, and certainly a lot of the drivers would have been watching the race on the monitors in the pit box, seeing just how slippery it is on the exit of turn 1, and therefore knowing that they need to be a little bit circumspect, stay out of trouble, and then look to push on. Through turn 2, one of the prime overtaking opportunities, and then particularly if you can get the exit from turn 2 and down the back straight towards Rauch at turn 3. Halfway through the formation lap ahead of the 9th race of the International GTOpen for 2016. Thank you very much for joining us in Austria this afternoon. We should be in for a little bit of a treat. We had the top 3 cars in qualifying separated by just a fraction over a tenth of a second. We've got 2 very strong BMWs. We've got the Ferrari of Andrea Caldarelli. We've got Duncan Tappy and Sean Balfe in the McLarens and the TF Sport. Aston Martin, Sally Ullich before we even get into the Lamborghinis. In short, this promises to be thoroughly entertaining and a race where strategy, the timings of pit stop and the efficiency of the teams in the pits will come into play, as we're trying to find a little bit of clear air. Off the start, however, you've got to wonder whether or not the aim for the BMWs is going to be to try and get the jump on Andrea Caldarelli in the Ferrari. The SF Racing team making their debut in the International GTOpen this weekend. And Andrea Caldarelli, a great driver to spearhead that charge. He raced with such success in GT racing in Asia over recent years, but we saw him in Paul Ricard. We know how spectacular he can be, and he will be taking to the start as they swing through the final turn. It's the responsibility of Caldarelli to pace the field as we wait for the lights on the gantry to change. Then we'll be racing once more for the International GT Open. Jackman gets right up high Caldarelli, and away we go now as Caldarelli plants the car in the middle of the road. It's a good start from Sean Balfe and Duncan Tappy, in contact between Jackman and Balfe as Gustavo Jackman tried to make space. A bit more contact as people swing out wide in every direction. It's a very good start from Alex West as Sean Balfe slow through turn 1. It's Duncan Tappy who leads from Peter Schotthorst. Then we have got Sally Ullich before Gustavo Jackman and Andrea Caldarelli. And Caldarelli being bullied a little bit more by Fabio Babini, Miebi Motors Lamborghini. Alex West in the Garage 59 McLaren also trying to navigate his way through all of this, but already Peter Schotthorst looking to apply the pressure to Duncan Tappy as they swing down through Rauch for the first time. Tappy will know that the McLaren is a very agile car from here on in on this lap, but that the BMW is able to really punch its way in a straight line. Then we've got Jackman in 3rd, 4th place Sally Ullich, 5th is Andrea Caldarelli. It was pretty robust through the first corner. We've got the Miebi Motors Lamborghini, Fabio Babini, Alexander West, Mario Placuta with Thomas Biaggi in 9th, Sean Balfe in 10th. It's been a frenetic first lap. There is Sean Balfe in pursuit of Thomas Biaggi, as already the BMWs looking to start to gang up on Duncan Tappy, but it's Peter Schotthorst who takes the challenge to Tappy first of all. Duncan Tappy and Michael Benham, just 1 win to their credit so far this season, and that came in Estoril right at the start of the year. Come close on other occasions, most notably in Paul Ricard, where there was that heartbreaking late spin for Michael Benham. He'll navigate the first corner successfully. The second time around is now Peter Schotthorst looks to try and pull the pin and looks to try and challenge Tappy as they climb up the hill. And Duncan Tappy, though he gets his elbows out, knows how to defend from Peter Schotthorst. Nothing that Schotthorst can do in the BMW. Instead, he just negotiates the corner safely, but as they battle, you can see already they're slowing themselves down. They're allowing Gustavo Jackman to close in. Then there's a little bit of a break in the air back to Sally Ullich. Did you see the front bonnet as well on Jackman's car? Possibly a little bit loose where there was that contact into turn 1. Fortunately, nothing untoward with Sean Balfe's car. He's in pursuit of Thomas Biaggi as we return to the fight at the front of the field. Duncan Tappy, former Bentley Works GT racer, moving across to Garage 59 this year and has done a superb job for the team. And now he's really going to have to work for it because he's got Schotthorst snapping his heels, but Duncan is experienced enough to know exactly where to position the car at all the right times. And that's what he's been doing for the first couple of laps of the race, but it's a very long way to go until the pit stops, particularly as these are 3 cars that we'd expect to see staying out until fairly deep in the pit window. As Gustavo Jackman thinks about lining up the move to the inside Peter Schotthorst into turn 1. No room at the inn. Jackman realised that, got out of it well in time. Last thing you want to do is come into contact with your teammate at the same time. Peter Schotthorst can't find his way past Duncan Tappy in the next 2 or 3 laps. You just wonder if Jackman might try and make a bid to pick his way past the Dutchman and see if he could overhaul the McLaren, which runs wide coming out of the second turn as they head on downhill. It's McLaren chased by the brace of BMWs. Then we have got the Aston Martin pursued by the Ferrari, then the Lamborghini. Tapie just sticks to the racing line, swoops downhill out of Rauch. Shorthorst looks one side, then the other, filling Duncan Tapie's mirrors, but Duncan Tapie doing what he needs to do, which is just sticking to the racing line. And there's no way around as a result for Peter Shorthorst. And then you've got Gustavo Jackman, he's just looming there, waiting to see how this battle's going to unfold. All the while, though, last time around, certainly they were able to stretch clear of Sally Yuluk. Andrea Caldarelli just a little bit off the pace in the Ferrari. Don't know whether or not he's possibly just had something knocked a little bit out of line, as well as they fought their way through the first turn. But this is unbelievably close. Just 0.2 of a second covering the leading trio as they came across the line as Shorthorst made the move into turn one, but ran out of grip, runs wide on the exit, rejoins in second position. Now, has he lost the momentum climbing uphill? Teo Martin, pit box, does not want to see these cars dicing too intently as they run side by side with inches between them into turn two. All very, very close. Jackman was looking for the switchback. Peter Shorthorst knew it was coming and just blocked off the move. It buys Duncan Tapie a couple of tenths of a second worth of breathing space. Again, Jackman looks to the inside of Shorthorst as they run down into Rauch. There's no way through, however. And already the BMWs, though, starting to come back to the McLaren. That last lap, they all circulated in the 1 minute 29 second bracket. The cars behind in the 1 minute 30 second bracket. And so the gap just beginning to open up a little bit, even though these three leaders are dicing very intently with each other. Of course, the other consideration is that once we get into the pit stop cycle, that the way that performance is balanced out through the year is through success seconds. Now, Gustavo Jackman, Fernando Monnier, they've got 10 seconds in the pits. Michael Benham and Duncan Tapie, they've got an extra 5 seconds. Biaggi and Cristani have got 10 seconds. Hankey and Yuluk have got 15. So that plays nicely into the hands of Peter Shorthorst and Miguel Ramos, as they don't have success seconds to contend with, having not finished on the podium in race 2 at Silverstone. It's another look at Shorthorst's abortive move into turn 1. Realised it wasn't going to work, didn't try to fight the car, instead focused on getting back onto the track. The worrying thing here, if you're a Garage 59 supporter, is that the BMWs have been able to close that gap down very, very quickly back to the race leader Duncan Tapie. At the same time, Tapie is taking out the pace of the race in a way that's enabling him to pull clear of the rest of the field. In particular, Thomas Biaggi mired in 9th, unable to do anything about finding a way past Mario Placiuta in 8th, and Sean Balfe in 10th likewise. There you see Alexander West just clear of Placiuta. Then we've got Biaggi and Balfe. So some great battles through the field and some very quick cars, relatively speaking, that are slightly out of position. And this is exactly what the drivers were talking about last night. They were saying because there's no real margin between the cars, because the laps are so short, that the track position is going to be absolutely key. And then finding your moment to move through the field is going to be somewhat tricky. Down through Rindt, Duncan Tapie has again got Peter Shorthorst filling his mirrors, but Tapie, a former Formula Renault champion before moving into GT racing, has been at this level for many, many years. He knows every trick in the book, and the way he's driving is absolutely unflappable. Beautiful shot there into the cockpit for Tapie in the McLaren, not even consulting his mirrors, just almost a single turn of the wheel into turn 1. And as long as he keeps doing that, it gives absolutely no opportunity for Peter Shorthorst to look to pull the pin and try and challenge. Then Tapie just covers the middle of the road into turn 2. This is the point in the track where the grunt of the BMWs really comes to the fore. Thereafter, they hit the summit of the circuit. It's downhill all the way. The heat haze shimmers off them. They're back into the 1 minute 29 second bracket. Yuluk and Caldarelli in 4th and 5th there, circulating in the 1 minute 30 second bracket. And then we've got Fabio Babini just beginning to hustle Caldarelli. Then a super scrap that's shaping up behind, but you can't really take your eyes off the battle for the leaders. Again, Peter Shorthorst thinks about making the move on Duncan Tapie, but Duncan has just got that McLaren in all the right places at all the right times, and it's making it very difficult for Peter Schothorst, as indeed he perfectly is entitled to do so because he's the race leader, to find any sort of daylight to look to launch a challenge. Schothorst, though, looks to move into Rindt. Tappy tries to shut the door. Schothorst tries to get his elbows out and might well have succeeded as Tappy runs wide. He rejoins. Gustavo Jackermann sees what he thinks is a BMW-sized hole as well to the inside and is going to try and move through into second position. Schothorst had to go for the move. It was a robust one. I think it was just about clean, and he takes the lead. Second place now for Gustavo Jackermann. Duncan Tappy gets shuffled down into third position. So the BMWs set forth to try and fly in formation. Although Duncan Tappy's going to do everything he can to look to try and fight back. Schothorst with some clear air already, trying to ease clear of Gustavo Jackermann. Jackermann now the boot on the other foot. The driver having to do all the defending as Duncan Tappy carries some fantastic momentum out of Remus. They run downhill towards Rauch, side by side, the BMW and the McLaren. Jackermann, though, moves back onto the racing line. Duncan Tappy couldn't quite draw alongside. Instead, Tappy looks to see if there's an opening as they swoop downhill. BMW buys itself 4 or 5 car lengths over Duncan Tappy. Tappy again able to hug the tight line of the McLaren. Here's another look at it, and that's really the second half of the move as Tappy ran wide through Rindt. What we didn't see on that replay was the start of the move. There's applause in the Theo Martin Motorsport Garage. What we didn't really see was that the squeeze that was put on as they went downhill into Rindt. So now Jackermann's made that move, stick on the McLaren. He's going to try and break away. Duncan Tappy's advantage over Sally Uluk, however, is 4.3 seconds. So that is a fairly handy margin for the third-placed McLaren. Certainly is going to give Mike Benham every opportunity in the second half of the race. The pit window, by the way, opens when there are 42 minutes left on the clock, so we're still 18 minutes away from the pits opening. Now, this is the car that is yet to really show its hand. The pole position Ferrari, the SF racing car of Andrea Caldarelli. And for whatever reason, Caldarelli, having got beaten up a little bit at the start, has been unable to pull the pin. Now, this is a great scrap going behind. And Alexander West doing a really good job in the second of the Garage 59 McLarens of keeping this queue of cars behind him. First of all, it's the Lechner Racing Mercedes of Mario Placiuta. Then we've got Thomas Biaggi, the championship leader, in the orange one, Lazarus Lamborghini. And it's the second place car in the championship, second place driver in the championship, Sean Balfe, who's snapping his heels right behind him. So this is a potentially significant dice in terms of the championship. Both of these cars have got very quick drivers to take over for the second half of the race, in form of the bright orange Lamborghini. That is Fabrizio Cristani, and then Adam Carroll, who'll take over from Sean Balfe. But for now, they've got to see if they can find a way around Alex West. This is some really great pace being run by Alex West, and certainly the Mercedes of Placiuta unable really to try and fashion the overtaking opportunity, and all the while that is happening, it means that Biaggi and Balfe can't quite show their full hand. They're just having to run in formation behind, opening up a little bit of a gap to the battle for the GTM honours between Miguel Sardinia and Felipe Barrieros, currently decided in favour of Miguel Sardinia. Sporting new Mercedes. So headlights ablaze from Thomas Biaggi as now Mario Placiuta looks to try and make the move on Alexander West, and West runs a little bit wide as he comes down out of turn 2, but the McLaren driver able to keep the Mercedes behind him as they head down into the braking zone at Rauch. Sean Balfe certainly looks like he's got really good pace in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. There's headlights being flashed on an ongoing basis at Alexander West, but there's absolutely no reason here why West needs to do anything other than what he's doing right now. He's running at a very good pace. He knows he's got the incredibly quick Alvaro Parent to take over from him in the second half of the race. And as yet, the Mercedes has struggled to find a way past. They're coming through to the conclusion of the 9th lap of the race. At the front of the field, Peter Schothorst leads by 1.4 seconds from Gustavo Jackermann. Jackermann now 3 seconds clear of Duncan Tappy. In 4th place, it's Sally Ulick. 5th is Andrea Caldarelli. 6th, Fabio Babini. And then this, the battle for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. You'd have to say that 3 of the cars in this battle, possibly even 4, Thomas Jaeger is able to get a flyer on, are perfectly capable of winning this race, and therefore, although this battle is only for 7th position, it's potentially very significant in the context of the race, both in terms of who's got the track position and when, but also the gaps that begin to open up to the race leaders. They're currently, on this 10th lap of the race, 17 seconds back from the race leader, Peter Schothorst, as West just has to preemptively cover the line a little bit downhill into Rauch, with Tutor just behind, snapping his heels. Then we've got Thomas Biaggi, and a little bit of a gap back to Sean Bauth. Bauth suddenly losing a little bit of ground to Biaggi on this lap. Not quite sure why that is. Bauth has just slipped back. Meanwhile, there is Fabrizio Crestani warming up in the Orange 1 Team Lazarus pit boxes. Placiuta looks to make the move on West and darts the inside into Rindt. And the Mercedes, can he get the corner squared off? Yes, he can. And as West slows, it opens the door very briefly but decisively in favour of Thomas Biaggi. And Sean Bauth might also compound the misery here for West, because he carries the momentum through the final turn. He's able to jump past West. He might also have a chance to challenge Biaggi as they head into the first turn. West, though, isn't done and dusted just yet. He runs wide and he's going to rejoin alongside Sean Bauth. The two McLarens running side by side as they sprint uphill. Bauth consults his mirrors. He looks to see where West is. Realises he can't quite close the door. The Garage 59 pit box say go West as he looks to the inside. Sean Bauth sees him there, gives him racing room. And the tightness of the angle there means that West just couldn't quite reclaim the place. So now it's all changed. Placiuta goes 7th, Biaggi 8th, Bauth into 9th, West slips down into 10th. Great dicing amongst this group of cars, and a real shame for West. It's one of the characteristics here of the Red Bull Ring that sometimes the punishment doesn't quite fit the crime. It was not really a mistake at all from West. He just tried to defend from the Mercedes, and as he did that, he got pushed out wide and it left a hole for the others to follow through. Meanwhile, Sally Ulick in 4th has got Andrea Caldarelli just easing up onto his tail, but this has been slightly more muted performance from Caldarelli. Here's another look. It's turn 2. Sean Bauth saw West at the last moment, squeezed him onto the curbs. Fortunately, they avoided contact. To look at it from that angle, you can see they did give each other enough racing room. It was all very, very tight. Meanwhile, Ulick, Caldarelli and Fabio Babini, the fight for 4th, 5th and 6th, climb towards turn 2. Meanwhile, news from race control. We've got a drive-through penalty for Gustavo Jackermann for the incident at the start of the race. And you might recall that Jackermann made side-on contact with Sean Bauth, and as a result has been given a drive-through penalty. Now that could be really significant for Jackermann, because he's only 2.5 seconds back from the race leader Peter Schothorst. Once he's run through the pits, that's going to feed him out possibly into about 10th position. So that's going to leave a lot of hard work for the Teo Martin Motorsport pairing of Jackermann and Fernando Monnier. And then you see a little bit of side-on scraping to the Ferrari 488 of Andrea Caldarelli. Now for Sally Ulick in the TF Sport Aston Martin, he and Ewan Hankey have got 15 success seconds for the pits as a result of their victory at Silverstone. No such concerns for Andrea Caldarelli, and likewise Fabio Babini and Emanuele Busnelli in the Ebby Motors Lamborghini. This group flash across the line. They're now 16 seconds back from the race leader, Peter Schothorst. You look, full concentration, the wheel of the TF Sport Aston Martin. Bianchi waiting in the wings. Now that could be interesting for the TF Sport team. They never won a race in the International GT Open away from Silverstone. Imagine they've had 2 victories at Silverstone over the years. TF Sport squad, as Caldarelli just beginning to turn up the wick a little bit, starting to apply the pressure. So you look who's got his headlights ablaze. It's a 10-second deficit to Duncan Tappy in third. Tappy 4.5 seconds now back from Gustavo Jackermann. But Jackermann, as we know, has got that drive-through penalty that he has got to serve. So that swings in favour of Peter Schotthorst and Miguel Ramos. Schotthorst and Ramos. Well, Ramos has won 2 races this year, in race 1 at Spa and then again in Paul Ricard. And that was with Roldan Rodriguez as his driving partner. A predictably grumpy Teo Martin Motorsport pit wall, and Jackermann, experience that he's got, just serves right through the penalty. Here we see it. Jackermann moved across, side-on contact with Sean Balfe, which did compromise Balfe in terms of track position, and then a little bit more contact between Jackermann and Caldarelli as they all tried to pick their way through turn 1, and very difficult because you've got almost 3 wide. Fortunately, contact just led to a couple of bumps rather than anything more substantial, but you can see that the ground that was lost by Sean Balfe. And frustrating for Gustavo Jackermann because he anticipated the start absolutely brilliantly. He just found himself being boxed in by the track position of the Ferrari in front of him. And Jackermann has rejoined in 6th position, so crucially for the BMW, it's come out ahead of Mario Placiuta, Thomas Biaggi and Sean Balfe. So that means that all is far from lost for Jackermann Monnier, as it elevates Sally Uluk into 3rd position. We've got another car that is being summoned to race control, and that's in fact is Andrea Caldarelli's team manager. So Caldarelli possibly with a little bit of explaining to do. Quite why, we don't know. So we are just over 20 minutes into the 9th race of the International GT Open season here at the Red Bull Ring. Peter Schotthorst leads the race. 2nd place is Duncan Tappy. 3rd is Sally Uluk. 4th, Andrea Caldarelli. 5th, Fabio Bobini. 6th, Gustavo Jackermann. 7th, Mario Placiuta. 8th is Thomas Biaggi. 9th, Sean Balfe. And in 10th is Alexander West, with Miguel Sardina and Philippe Barrieroth disputing GT AM honours. As Peter Schotthorst picks up the throttle, heading out of Remus downhill towards Rauch, and his lead over Duncan Tappy out now to 8.1 seconds. The fight for 3rd position. Sally Uluk has got Caldarelli seesawing at the wheel behind him. Here is 2nd place man Duncan Tappy. Tappy the early leader as he held off the dueling BMWs for several laps. Eventually, as Schotthorst was able to pick his way past, Jackermann followed through before the Colombian driver went in for his drive-through penalty. Now, attention is going to start to turn a little bit towards the clock and the pit window. The pit window opening in just over 5 minutes' time, when the clock ticks down to 42 minutes to go. Then the pit window will be open. We would expect Duncan Tappy to stay out until fairly late in the pit window, which will shut in just under 28 minutes, or just under 20 minutes' time, and there are 28 minutes left on the clock. However, Sally Uluk will possibly come in fairly quickly. We also expect to see Sean Balfe in at the start of the pit window, and maybe Mario Placiuta as well, to hand over to Thomas Jaeger. There is Placiuta at the wheel of the Lechner Racing Mercedes. Sean Balfe in his 2nd event in the McLaren for the Balfe Motorsport team, having moved away from the Ferrari they started the year with. And after Silverstone being a little bit of a voyage of discovery, they really seem to have got the McLaren working well here at the Red Bull Ring. Balfe, although will be slightly frustrated to be in 9th place after the lively start, he and Adam Carroll are still very much in the mix-up when handicaps come into effect, or success seconds in the pits, and then the gaps that get chased down late on. Now, meanwhile, look at Gustavo Jackermann. He is driving with the bit between his teeth. He's already caught Fabio Bobini and Andrea Caldarelli as the Colombian driver. He was spectacular in Silverstone. So we enjoy the super slow motions through turn 1. Just riding over the sausage curbs. There's Sean Balfe. But yes, for Gustavo Jackermann, his drive in the second half of the race to Silverstone was quite something, and he's going for the move already on Fabio Bobini as they climb over the crest in the road, downhill towards Rint, and this should be the place gained for Jackermann. Indeed it is. He darts to the inside of the Ebby Motors Lamborghini and snatches 5th position. The problem more isn't so much track position here, it's more the time that's been lost for Jackermann. His next target is Andrea Caldarelli. They have previous from the first corner of the race. There are also 2 drivers at the very, very top of their game, so this could be a lot of fun. Might also give Sally Yuluk the chance to just buy himself a couple of seconds before the pit window opens. But already the BMW has got the legs on the Ferrari as they climb uphill, and Jackermann is able to jump to the inside of Andrea Caldarelli to turn 2, and Jackermann making that look relatively straightforward in the event. So that's the place gained for Gustavo Jackermann. Not sure all is quite as it should be with that Ferrari, because Caldarelli, when we've seen him previously in the championship, has been absolutely hurling the car around, whatever car he might be at the wheel of. But he's just had a slightly more muted performance this afternoon. Nonetheless, it's a beautifully turned out car, and one that we hope to see next time out in Monza in a couple of weeks' time. So Jackermann, his next target is Sally Yuluk. This is for 3rd place. They are about 23 seconds back from the race leader Peter Schotthus, so they come to the end of this 17th lap of the race. So Yuluk just uses all of the curb as they sprint through. Now Yuluk, his deficit to the race leader Peter Schotthus, 25 seconds. Gustavo Jackermann, his deficit to Sally Yuluk, 0.6 of a second as they swing through turn 1. And then begin the long climb up towards Remus. Is Jackermann going to be able to get the jump on the Aston Martin this time around? Sally Yuluk is just able to hold Jackermann off as they then head off towards Rauch. Gustavo Jackermann continues to apply all sorts of pressure to Sally Yuluk as they swing through Rauch, but the Aston Martin driver able to try and keep the menacing looking BMW at bay behind him. The Aston Martin, a beautifully balanced and poised car, and Sally Yuluk, who has been better with every single appearance behind the wheel this year in the International GTOpen, richly deserved his win in Silverstone and has now got his work certainly for another lap before the pit window opens. Jackermann looks to the inside into Rint. Oh, he thought about that for a long time to Gustavo Jackermann. What he did manage to do, though, is just force Sally Yuluk slightly offline, but it doesn't quite reward the BMW driver's endeavours into the final turn. Instead, Jackermann picks up the throttle nice and early as he sprints alongside the Aston Martin as they come along the start and finish straight, and Jackermann jumps to 3rd, or does he, because Yuluk considers looking to fight back immediately into turn 1, but he can't quite do it. So the BMWs of Peter Schotthus and Gustavo Jackermann now in 1st and 3rd place, with in 2nd place Duncan Tappy. But it's Peter Schotthus who leads. Tappy 11.2 seconds back. Gustavo Jackermann 27 seconds off the lead. And we've got this huge gaggle of cars still busy fighting to complete the top 6. The battle going on behind for 7th is equally close, as you can see in the very back of your picture, as the pit window is now open. So the driver change comes into effect, and this is when the element of strategy starts coming to play. The pit window open for 14 minutes until there are 28 minutes left on the clock. What we saw at Silverstone was a lot of cars coming at the very start of the pit window, a lot of cars coming in at the very end of the pit window, and not too many doing exactly half the race each. And of course, the pit stops whilst they can give them strategic advantage, also are an element of drama and unpredictability. As into the pit lane, not unsurprisingly, go Sally Yuluk, and also in is Andrea Caldarelli. The pit window open here at the Red Bull Ring, and the pit stops underway with immediate effect. As in to his marks comes Sally Yuluk, and he's got 15 additional success seconds as he passes over to Ewan Hankey. Fu Song Yang also taking over from Andrea Caldarelli as Thomas Jaeger jumps in to assume the controls of the Lechner Mercedes from Mario Picciuta. Alexander West is in to hand over to last year's champion Alvaro Parent. So now this is going to be quite something. As the track clears out a little bit, it gives the opportunity for Thomas Biaggi and Sean Balfe to try and get a few quick laps under their belts before they look to make the mandatory pit stops. And with the Mercedes having jumped into the pit lane, it's probably why we're seeing the Lamborghini staying out a lap longer, seeing if they can get the jump. As also in is the race leader, Peter Schothorst. Now this is interesting, coming a little bit earlier than we'd have expected maybe, to hand over to Miguel Ramos. It's been a super performance from Schothorst, and maybe they decided to go all out, really push the tyres. Also changing over Felipe Barrieroth and Francisco Guedes. It's Guedes who gets strapped into the V8 Racing Renault as onward goes Jackerman. He's going to move up into second position as a result of all of this, with Duncan Tappy assuming the lead of the race. Jackerman immediately onto terms with Ewan Hankey as he emerges from the pits. More pit stops, and it's Fabrizio Crestoni to take over from Thomas Biaggi, also Adam Carroll to take over from Sean Balfe. So we've got the overwhelming majority of the field coming in for their pit stops right at the opening of the pit window. In fact, we've only got 3 cars that haven't, in the form of Duncan Tappy, Gustavo Jackerman and Fabio Babini, and this is one of them. Gustavo Jackerman, 16 seconds his deficit to the race leader Duncan Tappy. Tappy, we can say with some confidence, is going to stay on track probably for another 10 minutes or so. Jackerman might look to do much the same, as Adam Carroll jumps into the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. And Carroll, who's had quite some week, having been announced by Jaguar as one of their inaugural FIA Formula E Championship racers. But Adam Carroll is also been a multiple race winner in things like GP2. He was star in A1 GP, of course. It's great to see him in the International GTOpen as he emerges from the pits just behind Fu Song Yang and also behind Thomas Jaeger. So that's interesting. So the additional lap from Thomas Biaggi and Sean Balfe hasn't been enough to overhaul the Lechner Racing Mercedes, and now Thomas Jaeger has played into quite a nice position as Fu Song Yang just runs a little bit wide coming out of turn 2. It opens the door for Adam Carroll, and Carroll doesn't need a second invitation. And there you see behind we have got Alvaro Parent, then Ewan Hankey, then Fabrizio Crestoni. So this is potentially very handy for Adam Carroll and Sean Balfe with an eye towards the championship. And trying to pick his way through all of this is Gustavo Jackerman, who's yet to make his pit stop, to hand over to Fernando Monnier. And so Jackerman's got Parent just clear of him. It's going to be a very, very quick yardstick. So we're going to be in for a fascinating race, because of those that have pitted, I make it it's Jaeger from Carroll, then Fu Song Yang, then Alvaro Parent, then we've got Fabrizio, then Ewan Hankey, then Fabrizio Crestani. So this could be fascinating as Song Yang gets demoted by Alvaro Parent. Parent runs a little bit wide. The Ferrari also, as it runs wide, allows Gustavo Jackerman to ease past. Tappy's lead over Gustavo Jackerman did come down a little bit over the course of that last lap, only by 0.2 of a second. So it is the Garage 59 McLaren, the Duncan Tappy, who leads. And don't forget that Duncan has got no success second, or I think he's got 5 success seconds accumulated from Silverstone for him and Michael Benham. So this is going to work out quite nicely, one would suspect, post pit stops. Michael Benham. Now, the big question is, of course, where is Miguel Ramos? And the answer is that, in fact, he is some way clear of Thomas Jaeger. So Peter Schotthorst, having done a perfect job, has fed Ramos out at the head of the queue of those that have pitted in. Ramos, the reigning champion, is third in the standings coming to this weekend. He's 30 points behind Crostani and Biaggi, but with 6 races to go, that is eminently catchable. I wonder if the Teo Martin Motorsport team might start to think about bringing in Gustavo Jacquemin, even if it's slightly off strategy, just because he has got bottled up here behind Alvaro Parent. Now, the gossip in the paddock was that the BMW is a little bit quicker than the McLaren, even with Alvaro at the wheel. And so therefore this might be compromising the true pace of the BMW slightly. Nonetheless, Ackerman was 0.4 of a second quicker than Duncan Tappy last time round. Of course, the other factor to bear in mind here is that the McLaren of Alvaro Parent is the sister car of the race leader Duncan Tappy, and therefore he's not going to be in an overwhelming hurry here, is he, Alvaro Parent, to move aside and wave Gustavo Jacquemin through. Now, the pace of Alvaro Parent, by the way, in comparison to the pace of Adam Carroll, was that Parent was 0.3 a second quicker. Now, here is the third place car of Fabio Babini. Babini, one of just 3 cars yet to make his pit stop, to hand over to Emanuele Busnelli in pursuit of Fu Songyang, and is going to be able to move clear of the Chinese driver. Is he down the back straight? That said, that Ferrari's got some punch in the straight line, but Babini had got the track position and the inside line. So just over half race distance here at the Red Bull Ring. Duncan Tappy leads. Second place is Gustavo Jacquemin. Third is Fabio Babini. They are yet to make their pit stops. Of those that have pitted, Miguel Ramos is first in the queue and a long way clear in 4th place of Thomas Jaeger in 5th. In 6th is Adam Carroll. 7th place is the McLaren we're watching of Alvaro Parent. 8th place is Ewan Hankey. 9th, the championship leader, Fabrizio Crostani. And 10th, leading the GTOpen class, is Manuel da Costa in the Sport and New Mercedes. Another look then at the pass from Fabio Babini to the inside of Fu Songyang. That was fairly straightforward. Now here is Duncan Tappy. And Tappy, unlike Jacquemin, hasn't got caught up in all the traffic of the cars that have emerged from the pits. And it meant that last time around, Tappy was able to buy himself half a second over Gustavo Jacquemin. The car, though, that Duncan Tappy's really racing is that of Miguel Ramos, and last time round Duncan Tappy was half a second quicker than Miguel Ramos as well. It's going to be an intriguing battle in the second half of the race between Mike Benham and Miguel Ramos. So for Duncan Tappy, he's got another 5 minutes left of the pit window being open, and his mission is to take as much time out of Miguel Ramos as possible. Peter Schotthorst pitted in with about an 11-second advantage over Duncan Tappy. Tappy has probably eroded about 5 seconds of that, but then he and Mike Benham have got 5 success seconds to contend with. So across the line now goes Duncan Tappy, and that last lap was a 1:29.0 from Tappy. The last lap from Miguel Ramos was 1:29.1. So a little bit of ground gained for Tappy, but not as much as he would have hoped. For Miguel Ramos, it's been a somewhat up and down year, because he's won those 2 races, but the rest of the time it has been relatively slim pickings for the experienced Ramos. Now into the pit lane comes Fabio Babini. That is to pass over to Emanuele Busnelli. The Abbey Motors team get to work. And that is a very slick pit stop from what we've seen of it so far. This is looking like another good lap from Tappy, who is enjoying the benefit of having a lot of clear air around him. as Ramos has just come past the commentary box. He does another 1 minute 29.1. So showing really good pace in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. Second place, Gustavo Jackermann continues to lap a little bit quicker than Duncan Tappy, even though he's caught in and amongst the traffic. Now what can Duncan do this time around? As he completes the 26th lap of the race, he does a 1 minute 29.1 as well, fractions of a second quicker than Miguel Ramos, but not an awful lot in it. As into pit lane now comes Gustavo Jackermann to pass over to Fernando Monnier, and the big question is going to be where the BMW emerges into the traffic. Jackermann Monnier 5th in the championship standings. They have had a number of second place finishes this year, 3 in total, still looking for that fairly elusive first win, but as they keep on racking up the points, it does bring them into the championship mix with still a lot of races remaining, a lot of points left on the table. Really the pair of them, their title fight derailed somewhat by the disastrous weekend at Spa, the early accident in race 1 for Monnier, which fortunately wrote off the car and eliminated them from the weekend. Other than that, they would almost certainly be a little bit higher up in the title fight as it is, so they can keep racking up the points, particularly as it's not looking like it's going to be a great day for Cristani and Biaggi. Then it could be very interesting. Now into the pit lane comes the race leader, Duncan Tappy. This is a key pit stop for the Garage 59 team. By my admittedly somewhat shaky maths, Mike Benham should emerge in second place, and he should emerge with a reasonably secure second place. Yes, that's the thinking, as the Garage 59 team get to work changing the tyres on the car. Tappy gets to work strapping in Benham. At the moment, it looks like it's been a fairly smooth pit stop this for Garage 59, just waiting for Benham to be strapped in before the fuel can go in. Meanwhile, Fu Song Yang continuing on his way. The Chinese driver, he slipped to 12th post pit stops, nonetheless enjoying the opportunity to stretch the legs of the magnificent Ferrari 488. Really aggressive piece looking car this. Very, very spectacular. So he navigates Remus at the top of the circuit. Mike Benham runs down the pit lane and is about to rejoin. Miguel Ramos has been and gone already. Monnier hasn't been and gone. So here comes Benham out of the track. Don't cross the right line, Mike. He doesn't. And he should be in a fairly secure second position, because Monnier still yet to come past us, in which he does now, behind Thomas Jaeger. So this is looking very, very good for Lechner Racing Mercedes team, because Thomas Jaeger post pit stops is well up into third. There is Gustavo Jackermann debriefing the start and somewhat frustrated with, I think, the way the race got underway and the fact that he was the only driver penalised. I'm sure will be discussed more extensively post-race. Here, meanwhile, is our race leader, Miguel Ramos, and Ramos, when this shakes out, is going to have a very comfortable advantage, it would seem, over Mike Benham. But the question all year has been just maintaining the pace of that BMW through the course of the race, and it's almost a repeat of 2015 this year for the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Last year, it took them about a third of the season to really get to grips with the McLaren, and thereafter they were unassailable, and it's been the same with the BMW. They learnt the car in the first couple of events and then have been flying thereafter, as Ramos leads into the 29th lap of the race, waiting for Benham to come past the commentary box, continuing to wait for Mike Benham to come past the commentary box. Here he is now, and he's 19.3 seconds adrift to Miguel Ramos. That is, it would be chaseable, but he would need to be a good second a lap quicker than Ramos, and Ramos lapping consistently in the low 1 minute 29 second bracket. He's got a really fine car underneath him this afternoon. In third place, it's Thomas Jaeger in the Lettner Racing Mercedes. Fourth, Fernando Monnier in the second of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs. In fifth, Adam Carroll. Sixth is Alvaro Parent. Seventh, Ewan Hankey. Now here's the battle. Adam Carroll in pursuit of Fernando Monnier in the fight for fourth and fifth. Monnier can see the prize of third place ahead of him. They've got Alvaro Parent closing up onto their tail. Now this could be a lot of fun because the pace at which they're running is comparable to that of the race leader Miguel Ramos, and depending on the pace that Michael Benham is able to run at, then the chase could well and truly be on here for second place with 25 minutes left on the clock. And the race unfolding almost exactly as the drivers thought it might, which they said yesterday and again this morning. The margin's going to be so tiny that it's going to be very, very close and hard to predict a winner, and that is how it's looking at the moment. We've got the BMW from the McLaren, from the Mercedes, from the BMW, and then the brace of McLarens, with Ewan Hankey and the Aston Martin not too far adrift either. The championship leader, Fabrizio Crestani, in the orange one, Team Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan, only in 8th place at the moment. So this is a great opportunity for some of the championship rivals to take some points off the Lamborghini, which is set for its worst results since race 1 at Spa. It's across the line, and Thomas Jaeger sets his personal best lap of the race. Monnier even quicker, 1 minute 28.9 versus 1 minute 31 for Benham. So this could be on in the pursuit for second place as Miguel Ramos leads at the Red Bull Ring. Well, here is Thomas Jaeger in third. Fourth place, Fernando Monnier in fifth. We have got Adam Carroll. Sixth, Alvaro Parent. Now, these four cars are all currently lapping quicker than Mike Benham in second place. They are also all lapping quicker than the race leader Miguel Ramos. Now, I think the 37 seconds to Miguel Ramos is not doable, as here comes Fabrizio Crestani. He's challenging Ewan Hankey. Now, this potentially a very important move in terms of the championship, with slightly yellow Ewan Hankey fourth in the championship standings. They want to take some points off the Lamborghini if they can this afternoon. Also only 8 seconds or so back from the Parent and Carroll group. So this is a really fascinating race. You don't know where to look. Crestani, who is nothing if not aggressive, continuing to live up to that reputation, and try every which way to get past Ewan Hankey. Hankey, though, able to dig deep into his box of tricks. Knew just to block out the Lamborghini's just trying to find a way past him. Now this fight for third place, it's like it's just thinking about stabilising a little bit, in that we've got Jaeger from Monnier, and then we've got Carroll and Parent, and all of them, just wonder if they are agreeing to a tacit ceasefire. Almost certainly not, but again, they are a couple of seconds lap quicker than Michael Benham. That's been the case for 2 laps in a row, so Benham's advantage is just shy of 14 seconds. So we've got just over 20 minutes here at the Red Bull Ring, the 9th race of the International GTOpen season, and we could be in for a grandstand finish. Miguel Ramos, if you've just joined us, he leads the race, and he is well up the road ahead of Michael Benham. But Benham in second place in the Garage 59 McLaren is being caught by this group of 4 cars that we're currently watching, headed by the Lettner Racing Mercedes of Thomas Jaeger. Then we've got the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW of Fernando Monnier, the Balf Motorsport McLaren of Adam Carroll, and the second of the Garage 59 McLarens of Alvaro Parent. They are now 11.4 seconds back from Mike Benham. This is going to be quite the finish to the race, because at this rate of capture, they're going to be onto the McLaren with about 8 laps to play with, and that's when all bets are well and truly off. Now, what we've seen with Mike Benham is that although he is relatively inexperienced compared to some of those with whom he's racing. He has picked up an awful lot of racecraft very quickly. He is really good at driving a smooth defensive race, being completely unflappable under pressure. So this could be very closely contested in the latter stages. Now here is the race leader, Miguel Ramos. Miguel Ramos third in the championship. He came into the race 30 points back from Fabrizio Crostani, and Thomas Biaggi is going to gain. Things stay as they are, 20 of those points back in a single bite. There is his teammate Peter Schotthorst. This is just his third race in the championship, and it is one that could well see him on the top step of the podium. But the next challenge for Ramos is in and amongst the traffic. He's got Francisco Guedes just ahead of him. Guedes currently second in the GTOpen class to Manuel da Costa. And then up ahead of Guedes is Emanuele Busnelli, who's the next car that Ramos is going to be encountering. Now, what Ramos has got in his favour here is a 27.5 second lead over Michael Benham, and therefore Ramos doesn't have to force this. In fact, given the pace at which Francisco Guedes is running, he can almost afford to follow in behind Guedes between now and the end of the race, because the top 9 cars in the field, no, rather the top 11 cars in the field, including Francisco Guedes, they're all running within about 1.7 seconds of each other in terms of the single lap pace. It means the margins are very small, and it means that Ramos might be struggling just in terms of sheer pace alone to try and pick his way past his compatriot, the fellow Portuguese driver, Francisco Guedes. Meanwhile, this is the battle for 7th and 8th place between Ewan Hankey and Fabrizio Crostani. It's the championship leader, Fabrizio Crostani, trying to find a way past the driver who's 4th in the championship, Ewan Hankey. And Hankey at the moment making life as difficult as possible for the orange one Lamborghini Huracan of Fabrizio Crostani, as well he might do, because Hankey and Uluk have still got every possibility of being International GTOpen champions for this year. So this is the chance to take a couple of points off the Lamborghini, and of course keeping the Lamborghini here in 8th place is giving those up the road ahead the opportunity to make the point standings very, very close indeed. Now, this is an adventure for Emanuele Busnelli. That is over at Remus, and hopefully he got that Lamborghini Huracan back onto speed and pointing in the right direction in fairly short order. Out of turn 1 for Ewan Hankey, with Fabrizio Crostani's ever-present shadow as the late afternoon sun just beginning to fade here, because what you don't quite get a sense of from television at the RedBull Ring is, although the circuit itself has got some fairly massive undulations compared to the height of some of the hills that surround the track, indeed the hills that climbs above the valley on which the track is based, then it's not that great an undulation whatsoever, but it does mean that as the sun begins to dip behind the peaks, the shadows form very, very quickly here. Hankey just working the wheel, the same for Fabrizio Crostani. Further up the road, I can tell you that Thomas Jaeger is now just within 6.5 seconds of Mike Benham and there is Thomas Jaeger in the fight for second and third. We have got more news, and it is that car 58, which we don't have in the race, has got a 5-second penalty. So we'll find out who that might be. It's car 88 rather, and that is Alvaro Prent. So that's interesting. So Alvaro Prent picks up a 5-second penalty to be added to his race time for track limits, but now we can focus fully on the fight for second and third, because Michael Benham has got Thomas Jaeger looming up on his tail. Now this is great performance from the Lechner Racing Mercedes, and we just thought the way the race was playing out earlier on that this could work into their favour, and so it is proving at the moment, as Benham in the Garage 59 McLaren being caught by the Mercedes. But of course, it's one thing to catch the car in front, it's quite another to find your way past, particularly as Benham, although he's been caught quite rapidly here, we're talking only about 1.8 seconds a lap, and that is defendable. Focus on your corner exits, make life difficult for those around you, and that is... it's not going to be easy, particularly as if Benham can keep Jaeger at bay for a couple of laps. It's going to bring Fernando Monnier, it's going to bring Adam Carroll, it's going to bring Alvaro Pren, at least in terms of track position, into this fight as well. And if they start squabbling with each other, then we could be in for quite the finish. Hopefully, along the lines of what we had at Paul Ricard back in June, which was not dissimilar. Roldan Rodriguez, arguably the slower car in the train, but he did enough to defend us. Oh no! A problem for Michael Benham. And that's a real pity for the Garage 59 McLaren, who pulls off the road. And I fear that might be mechanical. That is such a shame for Benham, just as the battle was about to get underway. So Benham out of proceedings. And what we also really hope as well for Mike Benham and Duncan Tappy is that whatever's gone wrong with the car, that it's repairable in time for tomorrow's race, because if it's not, it probably would drop them out of championship contention. Running a little bit wide, coming out of Remus, there is Ewan Hankey's still got Fabrizio Cristani behind him now. Of course, with Benham's demise, this elevates this battle to being for 6th and 7th place now. Also, by default, promotes Thomas Jaeger at 2nd. Now, here's another look at it, and Benham just pulling off the road. Oh, that's what it is. It is a front left tyre, is it, that's gone away? And that, given that Benham just had gone past the pit entry, clearly felt maybe he couldn't make it round until the round a whole lap without damaging the car. So we will find out more after the race. Meanwhile, the race leader, Miguel Ramos, his lead over Thomas Jaeger is 33.5 seconds. That is not looking like it's going to be under threat particularly. So for Ramos, the next 15 minutes of racing can be 15 minutes to enjoy rather than endure. What it also means in the fight for 2nd place is that now there's not going to be any sort of cork in the bottle here to back Thomas Jaeger into Fernando Monnier and Adam Carroll. They're going to have to do this under their own steam, so that could be worth keeping an eye on. Alvaro Pren in 5th has got more than 5 seconds over Ewan Hankey, so he'd stay there. Hankey in 6th has got Cristani behind him. Manuel da Costa leads the GTAM class, and then Emanuele Busnelli and Francisco Guedes, as we saw in the background, continuing to enjoy a good scrap as well. Peter Schotthorst and Teo Martin. Watch Miguel Ramos doing what he does best out front in an international GTOpen race. Headlights ablaze as he climbs uphill for the 38th time of asking. And this is going to be one of the more comfortable victories that we have seen in recent times in the international GTOpen. Because Ramos, the way the strategy's worked out today, with the performance of the BMW this weekend, it's a track that really seems to suit the car, means that Ramos has got well in excess of a 30-second lead over Thomas Jaeger. Interesting though that the sister BMW, Monnier, can't really do anything too much about Jaeger, but also Adam Carroll doesn't seem to be able to do an awful lot about Fernando Monnier, with Alvaro Pren behind Carroll as well, but not really particularly making any inroads. So the race relatively stable at the moment. Such a pity that we lost Mike Benham and Duncan Tappy, because I think that could have just begun to turn things on its head a little bit. As it is, doesn't seem as if Monnier or Carroll have quite got the pace to close up onto each other, or indeed to Thomas Jaeger. So lap 38 of the race gets reeled off by Miguel Ramos. Across the line for the reigning champion, Ramos, who had finished runner-up in the 2 preceding seasons in the International GTOpen, who had often done an awful lot of winning along the way. Yet last year he finished runner-up in the Championship 2014. He won 7 races, more than anybody else. As now a challenge behind Francisco Guedes, looking to make the move on Emanuele Busnelli. This a pass for 9th place in favour of Francisco Guedes. Now, Guedes Manuel da Costa, the leader of the GTOpen class, there he is, well, as you can see from the relative track position, quite some way up the road. So Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardinia looking poised to score another GTOpen class win in this 2016 campaign. It's been a very successful campaign for them. As the Mercedes rumbles downhill, Teo Martin pit box, I think, would quite like the next 10 minutes to pass in the blink of an eye, because they'll just be wanting those BMW, their cars, to just keep coming past metronomically, not with any causes for concern, not with the engine sounding ever so slightly off song. And this is one of those circuits as well, the RedBull ring, where the situation in the pit boxes doesn't really afford a particularly good view out over the whole circuit, and therefore can present just some anxious moments as they wait for the cars to come past. Now we have got Thomas Jaeger, and Jaeger in second place. There is Mario Pachuta, who put in a super performance in the start of the race. And Jaeger, well, he is still having to withstand a little bit of pressure from Fernando Mounier. Mounier and Jackman there, challenge slightly thwarted by the drive-through penalty that needs to be served by Gustavo Jackman early on. I think that would have been enough to probably leave them in second position had they not served it. As it is, second place is still on the table here. If Mounier's got something to push with in the last stage of the race, then it could be on. Then we have got Adam Carroll a little bit further back in fourth. Carroll now 2.5 seconds back from the BMW. It doesn't seem as if the Balfour Motorsport Ferrari can quite get onto terms. Balfour Motorsport McLaren rather can quite get onto terms with the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, as winding his way downhill, Fernando Mounier with opportunity just to catch Jaeger a little bit as Fusong Yang gets into a spot of bother, swinging through Worth, just kicked up a little bit of dust. Fortunately doesn't delay Jaeger, and actually might have just aided him a little bit, because he's now able to place the Ferrari between himself and Mounier through one of the more technical sections of the track, which means the BMW just has to pause a couple of corners before powering on past the Ferrari, which it does not do on the way towards turn one. So yeah, got 1.9 seconds clear of the BMW. Now Mounier makes his move. Gap back to Carroll, 2.2 seconds. Alvaro Prent in fifth, further back. Now here's another look. Fusong Yang just ran wide. Oh, that was quite a big kick of the gravel as well. And if you recall 12 months ago, we had Alvaro Barber having a huge spin in the Lamborghini at that point on the circuit when he just pushed a little bit too hard. So now, this fight for second and third, will it really crackle into life between now and the checkered flag, or are we possibly looking things staying as they're going to be between now and the flag? They've got 8 minutes to play with, so they've got time for probably 5 or 6 more laps, depending on the point at which they cross the line relative to the clock ticking to 0. I kind of feel that if Mounier got anything in terms of raw pace to really take the fight to Jaeger, he would have done so by now. And the same for Adam Carroll. There is Gustavo Jackman, third place. Given some of the adventures from earlier on in the race, is going to be a good result for them. It's going to be one that keeps that driver pairing in title contention, particularly with Fabrizio Cristani and Thomas Biaggi, the championship leaders, en route to 7th. That lap for Mounier, in fact, was a concession of quite a lot of time to Thomas Jaeger. Most of that, I'd imagine, was lost with the lappery of Fusong Yang into turn one. It means that Adam Carroll is a little bit closer to the tail of the BMW. There is Carroll. Then Alvaro Prent in 5th, still part of that scrap. Ewan Hankey remains able to keep Fabrizio Cristani behind him in the fight for 6th and 7th place. They are still running in very close contention. So there's lots of battles here that all it will take is a little bit of a mistake or some of these tyres going off more dramatically than they would anticipate to start to put a slightly different complexion onto the race. Here indeed is the battle between Ewan Hankey and Fabrizio Cristani, and this is one of the closest fights that we've currently got underway in the field. Down through Pirelli and Worth, the two leaders, or the two cars fighting for 6th and 7th rather. So the two leaders, because they've been at the front of the field so often this season. Then into Rindt, and then towards the end of this 42nd lap of the race. Now for Cristani, if he can find a way past Ewan Hankey here, it's going to be quite valuable terms of the championship positions. This is a fight that's well worth winning for Fabrizio Cristani, particularly as all the cars that he's battling within the championship are ahead of him on the road this afternoon. So he's going to be conceding points to pretty much absolutely everybody. But the Aston Martin, we've seen time and time again, is a really difficult car to find a way past. It just seems as if the Aston Martin is able to produce a slightly more turbulent wake than many of its rival marques, which just makes it a really tricky car to get right up close to. Now, here is Jaeger, and Jaeger's pulled the pin. He's actually been able to break some way clear of Monnier, and Monnier being caught now by Adam Carroll, and Carroll is really right onto the tail, so it would appear from the timing screens of the second of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs. Here is the race leader, Miguel Ramos. Ramos well over 30 seconds clear of Thomas Jaeger, and this, well, it's never straightforward winning a race at this level, but for Ramos this is exactly what he would have hoped for, a trouble-free afternoon. Peter Schothorst can smile on the pit wall, give a thumbs up. Ramos is one of the drivers you very rarely see making a mistake behind the wheel, always knows the limit within which to drive. So he is taking absolutely no risks whatsoever. You can see leaving plenty of margin. So he swings on towards Rindt. Now here is the battle for third position, and Monnier, his tyres possibly just going away from him. Remember that Gustavo Jackermann pitted him very early, and now Adam Carroll sensed an opportunity. He senses the possibility of getting himself and Sean Balfe onto the podium, and this is going to be a very busy last couple of laps now for Monnier. Can he withstand the challenge of Adam Carroll? Carroll has always been one of the very quickest out there. He's going to have to make the BMW driver work very hard in the closing stages, and I'm not sure that Monnier is even going to be able to enter the fight, because Carroll draws alongside as they come out of Worth, run on towards Rindt, and this is a good move from Adam Carroll. He's to the inside and he goes through, up into third place for Adam Carroll. But can he hold it? He runs wide on the exit, he rejoins the track and just holds on to that third position. It also brings Alvaro Parent into the mix, but now Monnier can look to fight back as he can use the straight line abilities of the BMW to try and pick away past the McLaren, but he can't do it. And this great late surge from Adam Carroll, coupled with Fernando Monnier just dropping off the pace a little bit. That last lap from the Spaniard was a 1 minute 30.8, a whole second slower than the time posted by Adam Carroll. And if Monnier is able to do anything, it's going to be before they get to turn 3, because thereafter the track starts to play more into favour of the McLaren. Adam Carroll, any pass for Alvaro Parent with the time left on the clock, it's going to be for pride only, because don't forget the Garage 59 McLaren of Parent picked up a 5-second time penalty for track limits earlier, so unless he can pass the BMW and pull 5 seconds clear, it's going to make absolutely no difference in terms of the final result. But Carroll is on the move. Fortunately for him, he is 3.7 seconds adrift to Thomas Jaeger. So I don't think Jaeger's going to be a realistic target. Monnier, it's going to be 4th place for him and Gustavo Jackermann. Pretty much come what may, as we're about to, we're into the penultimate lap of the race for Miguel Ramos. This group of cars about to start the penultimate lap of the race. They've got 2 more tours of the circuit to run. Here's another look at Adam Carroll running wide. He has picked up a driver standards warning flag for track limits, so as long as he doesn't do it again, he should be okay. And again, with an eye towards the championship, an important move this for Adam Carroll, because Sean Balfe, his co-driver, second in the standings coming into today's race, was admittedly some 22 points adrift of Fabrizio Crostani and Thomas Biaggi, but he's going to have closed that down somewhat looking into tomorrow. For Fernando Monnier and Gustavo Jackermann, well, more points for 4th place, but they will surely be contenders for the win in tomorrow's race, particularly once the success seconds balance out. The same, arguably, for Ewan Hankey and Sally Yullock and Fabrizio Crostani and Thomas Biaggi. So, as entertaining as today's race has been, we have got a very strong chance that tomorrow's race is going to be good as well. Over the rise in the road, dipping down into Rindt. Here, though, for the final tour of the circuit is Miguel Ramos. He and Peter Schothorst have been really the class of the field this afternoon after Schothorst was able to move clear of Duncan Tappy in the early laps. Thereafter, it has been plain sailing for the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW pairing. It's not been easy. They've been running at a relentless pace, but they've been able to build that track position, build that buffer over the rest of the field, and now it is downhill all the way for Miguel Ramos. Can't quite let the car run itself home, but nonetheless, he's got a 30-second lead. He doesn't need to take any chances, just needs to safely negotiate the last couple of corners, which he is able to do, certainly in the case of Worth. He's now just got Rindt and then the final corner to go. Comes down almost into this finishing stadium section of the circuit that loops round the back of the paddock. And Miguel Ramos is within sight of the checkered flag, and it's going to be a 3rd victory of the season in the International GTOpen for Miguel Ramos. A maiden win for Peter Schothorst, and celebration for Teo Martin Motorsport as they score victory in the 9th race of the 2016 season. Now, 2nd place, this is going to be a fantastic home result for Thomas Jaeger and Mario Plasciuta. Brilliantly judged strategy from the racing team and some great driving from both of them. And the Mercedes navigates the final turn and comes home to take the flag in 2nd place, with 3rd going the way of Adam Carroll and Sean Balfe, 4th to Fernando Monnier and Gustavo Jackermann, 5th to Alvaro Parent and Alexander West. And then what about the fight for 6th? There's thumbs up from the Lettner Racing team. They enjoyed that. 6th does go to Ewan Hankey and Sally Yullock, and 7th place to Fabrizio Crostani and Thomas Biaggi. A disappointing afternoon for them, with Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardinia all set to claim the GT-AM class win. So Miguel Ramos and Peter Schothorst celebrating once more in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. The way the race unfolded for them today, they couldn't have asked for anything more. Miguel Ramos, door open, receives the acclaim of the marshals, and I think that he thoroughly enjoyed that. So look then at the final classification. Ramos and Schothorst win it from Plasciuta and Jaeger, then Balfe and Carroll, Jackermann and Monnier, West and Parent. Costa and Sardinia indeed scoring the GTM victory from Barry Aroth and Guedes. The fastest lap going to the Ramos and Schothorst car. Fu Song Yang and Andrea Caldarelli, disappoint for them from pole, and the same for Michael Benham. So in terms of the championship then, Crostani and Biaggi lead it, but now just 8 points clear of Miguel Ramos, with Sean Balfe just 11 points adrift. Monnier and Jackermann still in the hunt, as are Hankey and Yullock, Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy, well, such disappointment for them, but 39-point deficit is still eminently closable with 5 races to go. So rolling down the pit lane for Miguel Ramos into Parc Ferme, the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. Team applause for Ramos and Schotthorst. Ramos just unclips himself before jumping out of the car. Opens the door to the cheers, the team. Oh, we enjoyed that. And double thumbs up from Miguel Ramos as he heads over to congratulate Peter Schotthorst and the Teo Martin Motorsport team. Huge handshake for Miguel Ramos, and Canucks just saying that every lap he was consistently one of the quickest on the track, and he certainly was. Thomas Jaeger and Mario Plasciuta, excellent second place in the Mercedes. Jaeger pops open the door, hops out of the Mercedes. And great to see the Lettner Racing team doing well here at home. More applause and more mechanics to go and greet. Adam Carroll and Sean Balfe in 3rd position, as you saw with the point standings. Very important results today with an eye towards the championship. It's a day really wet. Cristani and Biaggi hemorrhaged ground to their rivals. And it shows that this is a title fight which is going to be very unpredictable, and one that is going to go all the way, one would suspect, to the final races of the year in Barcelona.
Victory for Miguel Ramos, still tired, and Peter Schotthorst. Miguel, the wise, 3rd win of the year. It's fantastic.
Great job from the team, great job from Peter. Everything went well, strategy perfect, no mistakes. Just take the car to the end. Really good, very happy, very happy.
And for this young man, it's the first win in the GTOpen. How you feel? It was an interesting first part of the race.
Yeah, the first part of the race was very tight.
We helped them with the setup. Huh?
It was a good fight with Duncan Tappy. It was on the edge, but I think it was a good fight. And afterwards, we managed to pull away a bit. Car was doing very well, so we did our job, and I'm very happy.
Well done, guys. Podium for you now.
Let's take a look back then at the highlights of a thoroughly entertaining race, and it all got very lively into turn 1. Schotthorst got the jump, others squeezing for ground. So they came out of first turn. It was Tappy who was in the lead, but then it got very close behind. Eventually Schotthorst squeezed Tappy out, and Gustavo Jackman was able to dart through as well. But Jackman, through his adventures for turn 1, was eventually to be penalised with a drive-through penalty, which would pitch him back down the order. Meanwhile, behind there was some great dicing as Mario Plasciuta made what in the end proved to be a fairly decisive move on Alexander West, with Thomas Biaggi and Sean Balfe also able to follow through. This was the drive-through penalty for Jackman, which rather took he and Alfonso Mounier out of contention. Although Mounier did his very best to fight up through the field, as did Jackman, who had the red mist down and was charging, the point at which he rejoined the track. Yakin eventually able to race himself up into, or back into third position rather. Then late on, Adam Carroll making the move on Fernando Monnier to snatch third place, but out front Miguel Ramos and Peter Schotters scoring victory for the Teo Martin Motorsport squad. Second place to Thomas Jaeger and Mario Plasciuta for Letna Racing, with the Balfe team of Adam Carroll and Sean Balfe completing the podium. Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardinia taking GTAM honours. So as the giant bull overlooks the Red Bull ring, the drivers preparing to be announced up onto the rostrum. So the opportunity to rehydrate and share some handshakes behind the podium here. Red Bull ring. And we'll get the drivers up onto the rostrum, but of course they've got to do it all over again tomorrow. So make sure that you don't make any plans for tomorrow afternoon, because after qualifying tomorrow morning we'll be racing again at 2:30 Central European time tomorrow. A slightly shorter hour-long race, the International GTOpen, so do make sure that you join us for that. But onto the podium in third place, Adam Carroll and Sean Balfe. Runners-up, Mario Plasciuta and Thomas Jaeger. And race winners, Miguel Ramos and Peter Schotters for Teo Martin Motorsport. Applause and smiles on the rostrum, as already thoughts starting to turn to unleashing the bubbly. So on to the presentation of the trophies. Jesus Pereira, the principal of the GT Sport organisation, doing the honours with the presentation to Adam Carroll and Sean Balfe first of all, then Thomas Jaeger and Mario Plasciuta. And our race winners, Peter Schotters and Miguel Ramos, hoist their winners' trophies aloft here at the Red Bull ring, beaming from ear to ear, quite rightly so. And Teo Martin Motorsport, the winning team, the BMW triumphant for the third time in 2016. Of course, the weekend only half done here at the Red Bull ring, but make sure that you join us tomorrow for the 10th round of the International GTOpen season. For now, though, as the drivers are about to let rip with the bubbly, it's time for myself, Ben Evans, to say thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we will see you tomorrow as the action here at the Red Bull ring continues.